Hi guys, this is Mrs. Stevens. I apologize if you can't hear me too well. I'm a little bit sick right now. I'm going to do step by step. I will kind of go fast to keep the whole video short, but you can always stop and pause and rewind it to get caught back up to where you need to be. And like I said, you could be 2 steps in and you're ready to go to the third. You can just kind of push the video forward there. First thing we're going to do is start kind of on a slight angle here. We're going to be working on getting the eyelid in just a second, but we first want to go ahead and get the center part of the eye, the large, what will be colored later, of the eye. And while it's somewhat on an angle, we want to cut through the top of the eyelid and just kind of stay away from your sides. You don't want your eye to touch the sides out here. And then I'm going to turn it upside down. And for a more intimidating look, we're going to go about 1 inch away from the eye. And it's okay if these do not match up exactly. You might have a little bit over here like this. You may have to extend it farther. That's okay because you can go ahead and erase. Now we're going to create more of a thicker lid and a lower lid as well. You can feel free to get a little bit different with the shape that you want to do for the eye. This is almost like a pull down, drip down. As far as other ones, I have different eyelids like this. Let's see what else. You could keep it kind of basic. Just more straightforward. We'll get into this, but this is a drip eye. I have some parts hanging down. Maybe a little bit more bouncy. It can be wavy, wiggly. Okay, so you can decide. It could be spiky if you want. And I would make the top thicker than the bottom. We'll go ahead and have them reach, touch each other. Okay, for the next part, you want to do the center of the eye, the black pupil part. You could keep it really simple. Just have it going through. There were some examples online. Some different ones there. Here's one I've been working on. And it can be simple if you want it to be. You can have cutouts, which will act like a highlight later. Okay, for now, we're going to get into the different scales. I posted some examples, but you may do what you want. I really like this one, but I like all of them. You can morph them, change them. You need 2 different types. So here's a neat way a student did. They almost did like these leafy feather ones. And then more spikes. And then they turned into diamonds. For this one I've been working on, I started with like a puzzle. And then they kind of turned blocky a little bit. And then morphed into an organic kind of blob shape. And then at the bottom, and I did add little tiny scales. And then here I did more blocky. It's better if these scales are irregular to make them look more realistic. So you want your whole paper to touch out on the sides, all the way out to the sides with the scales. All right. And what we would do next is work on the value sheet. And we are creating value through different line making, hatching, or just small lines. They can be kind of long. And with the ball, you would want it rounded. So this is something you could practice even if you don't have this paper. Cross hatching, you are crisscrossing those lines at different angles. You can even sometimes, if you need a place to be really dark, you can cross over that. Cutting through. Stippling, small dots. And when you need it to be darker, you put more there. And I know in the classroom we're going to be using Sharpie to use this straight out, so you don't have to like copy over pencil marks. Random marks, again, they could be dashes, dots. And then most kids are used to the blending, which this won't apply for our project, so we won't do it. On the back here, if you're in class, we will work on taking some of these shapes and applying some of our techniques. And you might do stippling on one side. And if that's a light side, you would have fewer. More time I would do make that darker. So that's one thing we're going to practice there in class. And the reason we're going to do that is because we are going to take these scales and create the illusion of it being a little bit more three-dimensional. I know you can see this pretty well up here. Those are just hatch lines, meaning one direction. Down here on this scale, they did cross hatching a little bit in between to create like these shadowed areas. On the diamond shape, they did cross hatching as well. And then I will post, I think, the other side of this scale sheet. The other side has different eye treatments to also create value. Hatching, cross hatching. And I will, you can also pause this to get your examples from. These are just recommendations. You can always get creative, do your own, invent your own. But that's how we're going to treat the scales. And what I would do is pick one direction. If you're going to be putting them on the left side, you know, if you're being right-handed, it's kind of sometimes just easier to start at the right side. And you will do this with each scale, maybe not those tiny ones. And when we get to color, we'll talk about that. How that just makes everything a little bit more realistic. This piece, some kids did black in the eye. They let this become white, or you can keep that black. And I know when we have more Sharpies, we'll get that colored in quicker. And then, like I said, it can be up to you what kind of maybe treatment in the inside of the eye you'd like to do. I like to sometimes do like more of a scribble. And you want to turn it as you do it. But you would want to have all this Sharpied first. And we would Sharpie the scales first before getting into the value. You can do a little bit of stippling on the inside of the eye as well. And that is one way to create value. It's just a non-traditional way. But you can add value here. With these scales, I'm moving up. Again, I would pick a side, so to speak, a left or a right side. Maybe for these smaller ones, I'll do a cross hatch. The horns, I want to give a roundness to it, so I'm going to curve those lines. You can do short ones. They don't all have to have the same length. You could even put stippling back here when you need it darker. So this is going to be the lighter side. This side, the edge, is going to be the darker side. Okay, so saying that these are Sharpied, I'm going to go ahead and Sharpie these down here. The next kind of requirement, you want to have two different kind of values, two different kind of scales. And then the next part is two different kind of families, I would call them, of color gradation. And that looks like this. Let's see where that went. Oh, here it is. Okay. So color gradation is where we would practice this, taking your darkest blue to a light blue. This one's a little bit different because I know in class we did it a little bit different sometimes. And we went to light blue, but you are going kind of backwards and mixing. And then you're also going forwards and mixing with the light blue. For example, we got the dark purple, then we did it lighter. We had the darker blue and put it back over to the lighter purple. And same thing. So you're kind of going forward, but then once you get to the next color, you want to take that color and go backwards. So you want to come up with two families of colors. I'm okay with it even maybe being one color, like value, kind of like the value scale, the gray scale. So if you imagine, that's black, white. But if you imagine it being, let's say, the dark green, then you could have, and this is your shadow, this is the darkest area. So you'd want to put your darkest green here. And for this side, you would press really hard. And then you would kind of fade it lighter pressure. And then I'm going to, because it's just one color, I'm going to go ahead and press really hard on the left side. And then blend the two there in the middle. So it goes from dark to a light. And you do want these colors, these scales to be the same colors. So you do want that dark green again over here. So a good amount of dark, pretty hard pressure, lighter in the middle, harder on the outside, and then a blend in between. Now, if you're going to do multiple levels, let's say purple to blue, and I might go to light blue, and perhaps I just want them in those little tiny scales. So you're going to be doing the scale. You're going to be doing this in each scale. So what we're not going to do, we're not going to go green, light green, yellow. You are treating each scale with the value. So this would be one example. You have red to orange to yellow. This person did kind of like what I just showed you with the green. They did a dark blue to a light blue. Also down here, they did dark green to light green. Here, they did purple to dark blue. So we are treating each scale with, it's almost like a value because you're making it go dark. So I'm going to go dark here. I didn't Sharpie these yet, but we want to Sharpie before we get started. A little bit of purple easier. And I'm going to go ahead and do blue, probably a little bit harder. And then kind of blend it into the purple. And then I'm going to do that light blue. Oh, it's breaking. All right, light blue. And blend it in with that darker blue. And that's really teeny. And then the greens. I can see if I can do a little bit larger one real quick. And then as we get into it, you could add even just some lines in here to kind of give it a texture. You want it to look maybe bumpy. You can add some, almost like it's a hill, creating a shadow there. Stippling. All this adds texture. They can be short lines, little lines. Sometimes you don't want to think about it too much because then it looks too perfect, where a lot of things in real life are irregular. And there's different things you can do. Just add a little bit of interest to those areas. All right, and same thing down here below in that lid. I feel like we kind of left that undone so far, but you can even just put like a simple pattern in there. And that could be one color. So you'll need 2 different kinds of scales, 2 families of colors, if you will, of the gradient. And then you want to try 2 different techniques to create that value. Okay, we're going to go dark blue. And you will want to fully color this. Full color. Edge to edge, top to bottom, corner to corner. Take your time and your care. Keep it clean, don't scribble. You can go back in and blend these 2 areas. And that will help your craftsmanship if you take your time. Don't get behind, stay ahead. All right, and there we are.